The rain fell like silver needles across downtown Seoul. Everyone hurried past. Umbrellas bloomed and vanished. No one stopped. Except her. Zuri Adebayo froze mid-step when she saw the elegant, elderly woman crumple against the wet pavement beside the busy intersection. The stranger's silk hanbok spread across dirty concrete like fallen petals. Without hesitation, Zuri abandoned her appointment. She dropped to her knees. Called an ambulance. Held the unconscious woman's cold hand through the wailing sirens. At the hospital, she sat in the pristine VIP corridor. Still soaked. Still waiting. Then the doors opened. A tall man in an immaculate black suit walked through, surrounded by silent bodyguards. His gray eyes swept the room like winter storms. The elderly woman on the bed stirred. Her trembling hand reached toward him. "My son." The room fell absolutely silent. His cold gaze slowly shifted to the stranger sitting in the corner. The African woman who had saved his mother. For the first time in years, Kang Min-suk, the Black Phoenix, forgot how to speak. No one had ever protected his mother, expecting nothing in return. She didn't know who he was. And he instantly realized. She might be the only person left in the world untouched by fear of his name. To everyone listening tonight, thank you for being here. Stories like this remind us that sometimes, the most powerful connections begin with simple human kindness. If this story touches your heart, please share it with someone who needs to believe in love again. Please like, share, and subscribe. Now, let us continue. The fluorescent hospital lights hummed overhead. Zuri sat motionless in the plastic chair, her braids still dripping rainwater onto the polished floor. She watched the tall man approach his mother's bedside. His movements were precise. Controlled. Every step measured like a predator approaching wounded prey, except this predator looked terrified. The bodyguards fanned out along the walls. Their eyes never stopped scanning. Kang Min-suk removed his suit jacket slowly and draped it across his mother's trembling shoulders. His wrist emerged from the sleeve. There, etched into his skin, a tattoo. African tribal patterns intertwined with Korean dragons. Power meeting heritage. East embracing West. Zuri stared without meaning to. He noticed. Their eyes met across the sterile room. His gray gaze held hers for 3 heartbeats. Then 4. She looked away first. "Who are you?" His voice was quiet. Deep. The kind of voice that never needed to raise itself because everyone already listened. "I'm nobody," Zuri answered softly. "I just saw her fall." A doctor rushed in, breaking the tension. Medical charts exchanged hands. Hushed conversations followed. Zuri stood to leave. She had done what needed doing. The woman was safe now. Her son was here. This wasn't her world. Wait. One word. She froze. Kang Min-suk hadn't turned around. His back remained toward her. But his voice wrapped around the room like silk over steel. "What is your name?" She hesitated. "Zuri. Zuri Adebayo." Silence stretched between them. Then, still without looking at her, "Thank you, Zuri Adebayo." Something in his voice cracked. Just barely. Just enough. She slipped out the door before he could see the confusion on her face. Later that evening, Kang Min-suk sat beside his mother's bed. The monitors beeped steadily. Her breathing had stabilized. The doctors assured him she would recover fully. But he wasn't watching his mother. He was staring at the doorway where she had disappeared. His chief bodyguard, Park Ji-hoon, stepped forward. "Sir." "The woman." "Find her." "Sir." "Everything. Her address. Her work. Her history." Min-suk's jaw tightened. The tattoo on his wrist seemed to pulse beneath the hospital lights. Someone who saves strangers without asking questions either possesses extraordinary kindness or extraordinary secrets. He finally turned. His gray eyes burned cold. "I want to know which one she is." 3 days later. The morning sun filtered through the windows of Maison Zuri, a tiny bakery nestled in a quiet Seoul neighborhood. The scent of freshly baked bread filled the air. African spices mingled with Korean flavors. Zuri wiped flour from her hands and smiled at her first customer of the day, an elderly Korean man who came every morning for her special honey bread. "You're glowing today, young lady," he said warmly. "It's just the oven heat," she laughed. But something had shifted inside her. She couldn't stop thinking about the hospital. About the elegant woman who had whispered her son's name like a prayer. About the man whose gray eyes held storms she couldn't name. Dangerous thoughts, she told herself. Forget them. The bell above the door chimed. Zuri looked up. Her breath stopped. Kong Min-suk stood in her doorway. He wore a dark cashmere coat. No bodyguards. No entourage. Just him. His presence filled the small space immediately. Power radiated from him like heat from her ovens. Yet he stood completely still, watching her as though the rest of the world had simply stopped existing. "You're difficult to find," he said quietly. Zuri gripped the counter. "I didn't know I was being searched for." His lips almost curved. "Almost. My mother wants to thank you personally." "That's not necessary." She insists. He stepped closer. The morning light caught his tattoo beneath his collar. Korean dragons breathing fire around African geometric patterns. What kind of man wears two worlds on his skin? "Please," he said. The word sounded foreign on his tongue. Like he rarely used it. Zuri studied his face. The sharp jawline. The controlled expression. The eyes that revealed nothing but demanded everything. "One visit," she said finally. "Just to ease your mother's heart." He nodded slowly. "I'll send a car. I'll take the subway." For the first time, his composure cracked. Something flickered behind his gray eyes. Curiosity. Respect. Maybe even amusement. "As you wish." He turned to leave. Then paused. "Your bread smells extraordinary." And he was gone. Zuri stood frozen behind the counter. Her heart hammered against her ribs. What have I stepped into? The following morning, Zuri arrived at a private estate outside Seoul. The house rose like a temple among cherry blossom trees. Servants bowed as she entered. Everything whispered old money, ancient power, secrets buried beneath polished floors. Kong Min-suk's mother waited in a sunlit parlor. Her name was Kong Sun-hee. She sat wrapped in silk blankets, her face worn but elegant. Her eyes, warmer than her son's, lit up when Zuri entered. "Come. Sit beside me." Zuri obeyed. Sun-hee took her hands. "You saved my life. I only did what anyone would." "No." Sun-hee shook her head firmly. "People walked past me. Dozens of them. Only you stopped." Her grip tightened. "In this family, we remember those who show us kindness." Zuri didn't know how to respond. She felt the weight of the old woman's gaze, the depth of unspoken meaning behind her words. This family. What kind of family? A door opened. Kong Min-suk entered silently. He wore a charcoal suit today. His tattoo peeked beneath his rolled sleeves as he approached. He said nothing. Simply sat across the room and watched. Sun-hee smiled at her son. "She is humble. Genuine. Like the old days." Min-suk's jaw tightened. "Mother. I know what I see." The old woman turned back to Zuri. "You must come again. Often. Promise me." Zuri hesitated. Every instinct warned her to refuse. This world was too polished. Too dangerous. Too far from her small bakery and simple dreams. But Sun-hee's eyes held something fragile. Something lonely. "I promise," Zuri whispered. Across the room, Kong Min-suk's fist tightened. His tattoo shifted against his skin. He said nothing. But his gray eyes never left her face. 2 weeks later, Zuri had visited the estate 4 times. Each visit brought her closer to Sun-hee. They shared tea, stories, laughter. The old woman spoke of her late husband, a powerful man who had built an empire from nothing. She spoke of her son, how he had changed after his fiancée disappeared years ago. "He used to smile," Sun-hee said sadly. "Before Yuna." Zuri's heart ached at the pain in the old woman's voice. What happened to her? She vanished. The night before their wedding. Everyone believed she betrayed him. Sun He's eyes grew distant. He never believed it. But he buried his heart anyway. That evening, Zuri returned to her bakery. She found roses on her doorstep. No card. No name. Just 30 perfect white roses tied with black silk ribbon. She looked up and down the empty street. Across the intersection, a black car idled in the shadows. The window was cracked open. Inside, Kong Min-suk watched her. Their eyes met through the darkness. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He simply watched, as though memorizing every detail of her existence. Then the window rolled up. The car disappeared into the night. Zuri stood in her doorway, heart racing. Who are you really, Kong Min-suk? And why can't I stop thinking about you? 1 month later, a new customer began visiting Zuri's bakery every morning. His name was Baek Jun-woo. Young, handsome, the son of a powerful Korean businessman with connections across Asia. He smiled easily, complimented her bread lavishly, asked personal questions that felt carefully rehearsed. "You're too talented for this small shop," he said one morning. "Let me invest in your expansion." Zuri shook her head. "I don't need investors. Everyone needs help sometimes." His smile widened, but something beneath it felt sharp. Calculating. Think about it. That afternoon, Kong Min-suk arrived unannounced. No phone call. No warning. He stood in her kitchen while she kneaded dough. His presence filled the room like smoke. "The Baek family," he said quietly. "Do you know who they are?" Zuri didn't look up. "Should I?" "They are dangerous. Ambitious. They destroy everything they touch." His voice dropped lower. "Stay away from Jun-woo." Zuri's hands stilled. She finally met his gaze. "Are you warning me, or commanding me?" Silence stretched between them. His gray eyes burned into hers. "I am protecting you. I didn't ask for protection. You didn't ask to save my mother either." His words hung in the air. Heavy. Intimate. True. Zuri's heart hammered. "This isn't the same." "It is exactly the same." He stepped closer. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedarwood and something darker. "You showed my mother kindness when no one else would. Now I will show you protection whether you want it or not." His tattooed hand reached out slowly, gently brushed flour from her cheek. The touch lasted only a second. But it burned. Then he turned and walked out. Zuri stood frozen beside her dough. Her cheek tingled where his fingers had been. "What is happening to me?" The following week, Baek Jun-woo returned to the bakery with fresh persistence. This time, he brought flowers. Yellow tulips. Bright and cheerful, everything Kong Min-suk was not. "Have dinner with me," Jun-woo said. "Just once. No business. No pressure." Zuri hesitated. Before she could answer, the bakery door opened. Kong Min-suk stepped inside. His gray eyes swept the room, landing immediately on the flowers in Jun-woo's hands. His expression didn't change. But his entire body stiffened. The tattoo on his wrist seemed to darken as his fist tightened. "Baek Jun-woo," he said quietly. "What a coincidence." Jun-woo's smile faltered. "Kong Min-suk. I didn't expect you here." Clearly. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Zuri looked between them. The tension was suffocating. Two predators circling the same territory. "I should get back to work," she said quickly. "Both of you, please excuse me." She disappeared into the kitchen. Behind her, she heard low voices. Sharp words exchanged in rapid Korean. Then footsteps leaving. When she emerged, both men were gone. But something remained. A single white rose lay on the counter. Beside it, a note in elegant handwriting. "He will never deserve you." No signature. But she knew exactly who had written it. 3 weeks later, Zuri discovered the truth. Not through Min-suk. Through accident. She arrived early at the estate for her weekly visit with Sun-hee. The servants hadn't expected her. She wandered into the wrong wing, and found herself standing before a massive study filled with photographs. Surveillance images. Maps. Files marked with names of politicians, businessmen, foreign dignitaries. In the center, a wall dedicated to one woman. Beautiful. Korean. Smiling. Yuna. Dozens of photographs showing her from different angles. Different cities. Different years. She hadn't vanished. She had been found. Zuri's heart stopped. You shouldn't be here. Minsuk's voice came from behind her. Cold. Quiet. Dangerous. She turned slowly. He stood in the doorway, filling the frame. His gray eyes held something she had never seen before. Vulnerability. Fear. Who are you really? She whispered. He stepped closer. Someone who has spent 10 years searching for answers. Someone who builds empires on secrets because the truth was stolen from him. His voice cracked. Someone who should have warned you to run while you still could. Then why didn't you? Silence. He looked at her with the devastating honesty of a man stripped bare. Because I couldn't. That evening, Kong Minsuk told Zuri everything. About Yuna. About the night she disappeared. About the evidence that suggested she had been taken, not by enemies, but by someone inside his own organization. Someone he trusted. I've spent 10 years hunting shadows, he said. Building power so no one could hurt my family again. They stood on the estate's private rooftop. Seoul glittered below like scattered diamonds. The wind carried cherry blossoms across the darkness. And the Beck family? Zuri asked quietly. His jaw tightened. Junwoo's father was my late father's closest ally. Now I believe he orchestrated everything, including Yuna's disappearance. Why? Because my family threatened his ambitions. We were too powerful. Too connected. He turned to face her fully. The tattoo on his neck gleamed beneath the moonlight. He's circling you now because he knows I'm watching. He wants leverage. Zuri's blood ran cold. I'm not leverage. To him, everyone is leverage. She stepped back. Then I should leave. Disappear before. No. His hand caught her wrist. Gentle. Firm. Desperate. I have spent 10 years protecting everyone except myself. I have buried my heart so deep I forgot it existed. His gray eyes burned into hers. Then you appeared. Soaked in rain. Holding my mother's hand. Asking for nothing. His voice dropped to a whisper. And I remembered what it felt like to want something other than revenge. Zuri's breath caught. You don't know me. I know enough. He released her wrist. But he didn't step back. I know you give bread to homeless elders every morning. I know you send money home to your family in Nigeria every month. I know you left nursing school because your father's medical bills consumed everything. His voice softened. I know you cry alone in your bakery at midnight when you think no one is watching. Tears filled her eyes. You've been watching me? Protecting you. That's not the same thing. For me, it is. Silence stretched between them. The wind whispered through the cherry blossoms. Below, Seoul continued its endless rhythm. But here, on this rooftop, time had stopped. I don't want your protection, Zuri whispered. What do you want? She looked at him. Really looked. Past the power. Past the secrets. Past the walls he had built around his heart. I want you to stop hiding. Something shattered in his gray eyes. For the first time since Yuna disappeared, Kong Minsuk let someone see the man beneath the legend. The following week, everything changed. Baek Junwoo escalated his pursuit. He appeared outside Zuri's bakery with photographers. Tabloid headlines exploded across Seoul. Mystery African beauty connected to Kong Empire. Is the Black Phoenix finally in love? Zuri's small life crumbled overnight. Customers stopped coming. Threatening messages appeared on her doorstep. Her landlord received pressure to terminate her lease. She sat alone in her empty bakery at midnight. Flour dust settled around her like fallen snow. Tears streamed down her face. The door opened. Kong Minsuk stepped inside. He said nothing. Simply sat beside her on the cold floor. His immaculate suit pressed against dirty tiles. His tattooed hand reached slowly across the space between them, and took hers. They sat in silence. Two broken people. One darkened bakery. A world determined to tear them apart. Finally, Zuri spoke. Tell me it's worth it. What? Loving someone like you. Tell me the danger, the secrets, the enemies. Tell me it's worth it. He turned her face toward him. His thumb brushed away her tears. I cannot promise you safety. I cannot promise you a normal life. I cannot promise the world will understand. His forehead pressed against hers. But I can promise you this, I will spend every remaining day proving you made the right choice. She closed her eyes. I haven't made any choice. Yes, you have. His lips brushed hers. Gentle. Reverent. A question wrapped in a kiss. She answered by pressing closer. The kiss deepened. Slow. Desperate. Everything they had been hiding poured into that single moment. Then he pulled back. His gray eyes held hers. Not like this. Not while you're vulnerable. Not until you're sure. He stood slowly. Extended his hand. Come with me. Tonight. Let me protect you properly, not as a possession, but as a partner. She looked at his hand. At the tattoo that marked him as belonging to two worlds. At the future he was offering. And she took it. 3 days later. Kong Min-suk's investigation reached its conclusion. Every thread led back to Baek Sr., Jun-woo's father. The old man had orchestrated Yuna's disappearance to destabilize the Kong family during a critical business negotiation. She hadn't betrayed Min-suk. She had been taken. And according to the evidence, she was still alive. Hidden in a private facility in Singapore. Kept sedated. Controlled. Used as insurance against the Kong Empire for 10 years. Min-suk stood before his private board. His tattooed hand gripped the edge of the table. We move tonight. Quietly. No bodies. No evidence. Just retrieval. Park Ji-hoon nodded. And the Baek family? Min-suk's gray eyes turned to ice. They will lose everything they've built. Every business. Every connection. Every secret. His voice dropped to a whisper. By morning, their empire will exist only in memory. That evening, Zuri waited at the estate. Sunhee sat beside her. The old woman held her hand. He loves you, Sunhee said softly. My son. He loves you in ways he cannot speak. I know. Will you stay? Zuri looked at the old woman. At the warmth that had survived decades of loss and pain. I'll stay. Sunhee smiled. Good. This family has needed warmth for too long. The operation succeeded. Yuna was recovered. After 10 years of sedation, she was weak but alive. She remembered nothing of the past decade. But she remembered Min-suk. The reunion was quiet. Private. Painful. Zuri watched from the doorway as Min-suk knelt beside Yuna's hospital bed. His gray eyes filled with tears for the first time in years. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have found you sooner. Yuna's trembling hand touched his face. You never stopped looking. That's what matters. She looked past him. At Zuri standing in the doorway. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Understanding. Release. Permission. She's the one, isn't she? Yuna whispered. Min-suk didn't answer. He didn't need to. Yuna smiled weakly. Be happy, Min-suk. That's all I ever wanted for you. The following week, Yuna left Korea for treatment in Switzerland. She had made peace with the past. She had released Min-suk from 10 years of guilt. And she had blessed his future with Zuri. Before leaving, she embraced Zuri. Take care of him. He pretends to be stone, but his heart is glass. I know. Good. Yuna disappeared through the airport gates. Min-suk and Zuri watched together. His hand found hers. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. 1 month later, the Baek family had fallen. Their empire collapsed overnight. Baek Sr. faced criminal charges. Jun-woo fled to Europe, never to return. Seoul's power structure shifted. and everyone whispered about the mysterious African woman who had captured the Black Phoenix's heart. Zuri's bakery reopened. Business exploded. Lines stretched around the block. Not because of scandal, but because her bread was genuinely extraordinary. She baked while Min-suk watched from his usual table. He came every morning now. Coffee in hand. Newspaper open. Tattoo visible beneath his rolled sleeves. The fearsome Mafia boss sitting quietly in a tiny bakery. Customers whispered. He ignored them. He only had eyes for her. One evening, snowfall blanketed Seoul. Zuri closed the bakery early. Min-suk waited outside. He wore his black coat. Snowflakes gathered on his shoulders. "Walk with me." She took his hand. They walked through the empty streets. Past glittering storefronts. Past couples huddled together. Past children catching snowflakes. They stopped beneath a single streetlight. Snow swirled around them like white fire. "I spent 10 years building walls," Min-suk said quietly. "I told myself strength meant standing alone." His gray eyes held hers. "Then you walked into my mother's hospital room. Soaked. Stubborn. Beautiful." His hand cupped her face. "And I realized everything I'd built meant nothing if I had no one to share it with." He reached into his coat pocket. Withdrew a small black box. Zuri's breath stopped. "I cannot offer you an easy life. I cannot promise the shadows will disappear. I cannot pretend my world isn't dangerous." He knelt in the snow. "But I can promise to spend every day earning your love. Every night protecting your dreams. Every moment proving you chose right." He opened the box. A diamond ring sparkled beneath the streetlight. "Zuri Adebayo, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face. The snow fell around them. Seoul held its breath. "Yes." The word came without hesitation. Without doubt. Without fear. He rose slowly. Slipped the ring onto her finger. Kissed her forehead. Her cheeks. Her lips. Around them, snowflakes danced like blessings. And somewhere in the distance, church bells began to ring. 6 months later. The wedding took place at the Kong estate. Cherry blossoms rained from the trees. Son, he wept with joy. Nigerian and Korean traditions blended seamlessly. Drums and Georgian melodies filled the air. Zuri wore white lace with traditional African gold accents. Min-suk wore a black tuxedo. His tattoo visible proudly at his collar. When they exchanged vows, he broke tradition. Instead of rehearsed words, he spoke from his heart. "You found me in the darkness. You pulled me toward light. You reminded me that kindness is stronger than power." His voice cracked. "I was lost. You found me. I was alone. You stayed." He took her hands. "Today, I choose you. Not because you saved my mother, but because you save me. Every single day." Zuri's tears fell freely. "I choose you," she whispered. "The danger. The shadows. The secrets. All of you." They kissed beneath falling petals. The crowd erupted in celebration. Nigerian aunties cheered beside Korean elders. Bodyguards tried not to cry. Even Park Ji-hoon wiped his eyes. That evening, the reception lasted until dawn. Music. Laughter. Dancing. Joy. "Son," he pulled Zuri aside during a quiet moment. "You have given my son something I thought he'd lost forever." "What's that?" "Hope." The old woman embraced her. "Welcome to our family, daughter." Zuri held her tightly. "Thank you for letting me in." Spring returned to Seoul. Cherry blossoms painted the city pink. Zuri stood in her bakery, now expanded into 3 locations. She wiped flour from her apron and smiled at her reflection. Pregnant. Glowing. Happy. The door chimed. Kong Min-suk entered, carrying their 2-year-old daughter, Ji-yun, on his hip. The little girl had her mother's warm eyes and her father's quiet intensity. "Mama!" Ji-yun squealed. Zuri lifted her daughter. Kissed her cheeks. "You're early," she insisted. Min-suk stood beside them. His gray eyes, once cold, now sparkled with warmth. His tattoo peeked beneath his sleeve as he reached around them both. She takes after her mother. Stubborn. I prefer determined. He laughed softly. The sound still surprised her. She wondered if she'd ever stop being amazed by this man. Later that evening, the family gathered at the estate. Sun Hee held Ji-yun while servants prepared dinner. Zuri's parents, flown in from Nigeria, chatted with Korean relatives. 2 cultures. 1 family. Laughter filled the ancient halls. Min-suk stood apart for a moment, watching. Zuri found him on the rooftop. He stared at the city below. Seoul glittered beneath the evening stars. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. "That I spent 10 years chasing revenge. Building empires. Destroying enemies." He turned to face her. His gray eyes held depths she was still discovering. "And then one rainy evening, a stranger saved my mother. Asked for nothing. Changed everything." He pulled her close. "You taught me that love isn't weakness. It's the only power worth having." Zuri rested her head against his chest. Listened to his heartbeat. Steady. Strong. Hers. "No regrets," she whispered. "Only one." She looked up. "What?" "That I didn't find you sooner." He kissed her forehead. Cherry blossoms drifted across the rooftop. Below, Ji-yun's laughter echoed through the estate. Inside, families became one. And somewhere in the heavens, destiny smiled. Because some loves are written in the stars. They simply wait for the right rainy evening. The right stranger. The right act of kindness. And the courage to choose love over fear. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. Remember, kindness has power you cannot imagine. One small act can change everything. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to believe in love. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay beautiful, stay kind, stay hopeful.